Rev up your engines!
Well, Toyota says their new pickup and SUV is going to arrive just in time to battle the Scouts, the Scout Terra and the Scout Traveler. If you don't know, Scout was that old American company made this kind of jeepy trucky things, and Volkswagen now owns the name, and they're going to be making these little electric SUVs and trucks in the United States. So Toyota says that next year, 2026, they're going to be making these little electric pickups and little electric SUVs. Toyota doesn't even have pictures of them. It's still inside their heads, but they say, hey, we're going to make these things to compete. Now, Toyota's always a conservative company, so I'm assuming they're going to make a handful of these things, a few thousand, right? See what happens. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, right? If they do it in 2026, they won't have solid-state batteries out yet, so they'll still have a range problem, a charging problem, a starting on fire problem, right? But at least Toyota's going smart. We'll make a smaller little pickup truck. We'll make it electric, all electric, so people want these things. But I tell you right now, they're not going to be making 200,000-300,000 of these every year. Maybe in the future, if things change, they get solid-state batteries, sure. But this stuff is more like a crowd pleaser for Toyota to say, yeah, we're working on electric cars. Hey, we sold 18,000 of them last year in the United States. You know, and the funny thing is, Toyota does sell electric vehicles in China now. They say Toyota, but they're Toyota and this other Chinese car manufacturer that's basically they're Chinese-made electric cars, and Toyota is just putting their name on it. That's what it comes down to. Toyota's still playing it real conservative. They're making a fortune selling hybrid cars that do have smaller electric batteries and a hybrid system, but also a gasoline engine, and that's what really is selling now. Now, Toyotas generally have really high resale value. That's why people are always whining at me saying, Scotty, I want a mid-sized pickup truck, but the Tacomas are so expensive. And I explain, well, they last a long time, and that's why they're so expensive. It's just the way it goes. But not all Toyotas have good resale values. Here are two of the worst. Now, the absolute worst, which isn't a surprise, is the BZ4X. That is Toyota's foray into fully electric cars. They didn't sell that many of them, but the resale values are horrendous. After 5 years, they forecast that it's only 50%. They haven't been out all that long, right? But I forecast it'd be even less than that with electric cars being dropped out. Electric car resales have gone down of the toilet, right? So, I mean, if you can find a cheap electric car and it runs okay, and it's low mileage, hey, why not buy one now if you want to try one out? Their prices are dropping like a stone, right? And anyways, why did they call it the BZ4X? What a stupid name. Even Toyota now admits they screwed up, and they said when they make new electric cars, they're going to give them actual names like they used to. Well, thank goodness for that, right? The other one that has horrible resale value is the Toyota Crown. They brought it back into the United States. The problem with the Crown is it's basically a fancy Camry, right? So why would you spend all that money just to have the name Crown on the back? If you want, you could get a Crown chrome emblem and you could unglue your Camry and stick that on there. Most people wouldn't know the difference. I've seen people do it, right? It's just a fancy Camry. That's why the Avalon failed, because it was a fancy Camry too. And marketing, it's kind of a stupid idea, but if you're looking at resale value, hey, that's not the car to buy. But on the other hand, there's nothing wrong with it, right? So maybe you can buy one used and save a bunch of money. Take advantage of other people's stupidity. If it's a good car, but it didn't sell for whatever reason, buy it used. Why not? Well, if you're like me, you're thinking, why don't new cars come with spare tires anymore? You spend all that money, average new car in the United States is like $46,000, right? Why don't they come with spare tires? Well, you know, the car manufacturers say, well, you get better gas mileage. Okay, a spare tire weighs what, 40, 50 pounds? That is not going to affect your gas mileage much at all. And get this, the manufacturers of full battery electric cars, they don't come with spares either. Their excuse is, well, if the spare tire's there, if you get in a wreck, the spare tire might hit the battery and break it. Well, the whole car might hit the battery and break it. They have crumple zones, so that's a ridiculous reason, right? We all know what the real reason is, because they're cheap swines. They want to sell you an expensive car and not have to put a spare tire in it. That costs money to make, and it takes up space. Ooh, their designers are like, oh, we can't have that ugly spare tire tire inside there. It takes our design space up, right? Now, some of them give you some glue and an air pump, right? Fat lot of good that is if you hit over a jagged thing and it rips a hole, or you hit a curb and it rips a hole in the side of your tire. You can't fix it. And let's face the fact, most Americans have no idea how to patch a tire. I've done it since I was 14 years old. My father's gas station. I'm pretty good at it, right? I always make a point of having a nice kit in a pouch with all the stuff under the passenger seat of all my cars. Because then if something ever happens, there's a screw and a nail in the tire, I see it, I can just get the kit out and I can just plug it, take the screw nail out, plug it up right there, because I've been doing it so long. I have a good air pump. I don't have one of these crappy ones that they put in the cars. Half of them break 2 or 3 years because they're made out of plastic and they're junk. I have a solid metal one that, cost $140, but I've had it for 12 years and it still works perfectly fine because it's all metal, right? But the main reason they don't have spare tires is because they're cheap. They want to rip you off, sell you something that doesn't have what it used to have. It was bad enough that decades ago they were using those donut spare tires that are small. You see people going down the road and there's this tire that looks weird. And of course, they don't handle well. They tell you you're not supposed to drive over 45 miles an hour, right? And then they came out years ago with these run flat tires. You get a run flat tire. Well, you probably don't know much about run flat tires because most cars don't have them. One, they're really loud, make a lot of noise, so people don't like them. But the air gets out. They'll run flat, but they tell you, well, they're only good for about 50 miles, and then they start coming apart. So that wasn't a very good solution either. So, hey, people, bring back the spare tire. I have many customers that they'll go to a junkyard, bring their car, and they'll find a tire and a rim that fits on their car. They'll buy it, and then they'll stick it in the trunk. Can't you just give us spare tires, Let's face the fact. It is a handy thing to have. You loosen it off and you put it on. It's not that I have videos showing people how to do it. Bring back the spare tire. That's what I say. Well, Volkswagen's thinking about bringing a $22,000 electric car into the United States, the ID.1. Here we go again with stupid names, right? It's going to be an entry-level electric vehicle. And Volkswagen says it's coming sooner than expected because they are having a relationship with Rivian. I think they own a bunch of stock too, right? That they're going to have a completely software designed car from the bottom up so that all the updates can be done just online and you don't have to, buy parts or buy new things. They just have the software that fixes problems that can make them work better. Now, of course, as per usual with electric cars, they make this big announcement. We're going to have a $22,000 electric car. It's going to be a radical change on it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, right? But they claim it's going to be here by 2027. And we all know what claims are. Claims are things that people make up and hope that they happen, and often they never happen at all. But if they do, and they sell a Volkswagen for $22,000 that is a full electric car that has a decent range, they'll probably sell a certain amount of them, right? Because just like the original Volkswagen Beetle, a lot of people bought them as a runaround car. They didn't take cross-country trips in them. Only the hippies did that, right? And I remember when you could buy a brand new Volkswagen for like $1,500. They weren't that expensive. But with inflation, $22,000, it's pretty equivalent. And it's a radical change, just like the little Volkswagen Beetle was a radical change. Americans always had big, giant monster cars. All of a sudden, small ones started selling. Maybe they can push these electric cars. But we are not going to be able to find out by at least 2027. If you're watching this in 2027, in the future, only it'll be the present when you're watching it, maybe you'll say, yeah, look, they're selling them. Or maybe they'll say, well, Scotty was right. They never even built the stupid things and sold them in the United States by 2027. Well, I was warned people about those crappy GM 10-speed transmissions. Well, guess what? GM now has to recall 90,000 of those 10-speed transmissions. And what happens? They're breaking internally, and get this, they may lock up. Well, if you don't know what that means, if you're going down a road and your transmission locks up, bing, your drive wheels, in this case, the rear wheel drive, the drive wheels will also lock up and you'll spin out of control. These are in Cadillac and GM vehicles. They're in some Cadillac CT4s, CT6s, and Chevy Camaros. They're those 10-speed. Now, that 10-speed transmission probably has the worst history of any transmission made in the United States. Originally, it was a joint deal between between Ford and General Motors. Ford was going to design mainly this 10-speed rear-wheel drive automatic transmission. It was an absolute failure. It was pilot crap. Ford got mad and they split out, but they're still making these 10-speed transmissions for rear-wheel drive. Well, they didn't do such a hot job in the 10-speed rear-wheel drive one either, because I see so many problems. And now they ought to recall 90,000 of these things. They might lock up. A little bitty thing, It might lock up. And down the road you go, the wheels lock up. It's just insane what they've done. They put too much technology. You ask any engineer these days and they'll tell you 10 speeds is too much. It doesn't make any sense. The extra money you put in, what little tiny gas mileage you get is infinitesimal. You can do it with 8 speeds. What do you need 10 for? They're still making the 10s because they put a lot of money into them, but they aren't very good transmissions, and obviously they aren't built that well either. Well, the Chinese company BYD that makes electric cars, their shares are rallying because they have rolled out new technology and they claim it will charge EVs in 5 minutes. They're saying their peak charging of 1,000 kilowatts will gain 249 miles of range in 5 minutes. Okay, that's not a full charge for a lot of cars. Some of them go 350, they claim, right? But 249 miles in 5 minutes, it's kind of a game changer, right? I mean, let's face the facts. You're driving down a highway. Do you really want to drive more than 249 miles without taking a break? Right? Even if you're going 80 miles an hour, that's still 3-something hours. You want to pee, you want to eat something, right? That would be a game changer. But of course, if it actually works yet, get them out there. Find out they do work and they hold up. Maybe you'll charge them up like that and the batteries will break in a few months or just a couple of years instead of lasting 10, 15 years. And the real flying ointment here is, okay, how many of these chargers can do 1,000 kilowatts? Hardly any of them, because Tesla's latest superchargers can do 500 kilowatts, right? 500. You'd have to double what Tesla's fanciest fast chargers do, and that would mean most of the chargers that are out there, they can't do that. They're not available to do that. It's like I say, there's such a disconnect between electric cars and the infrastructure reality. Make your head spin. Maybe in the future, it'll be a big deal. Maybe 20, 30 years from now, we'll have electric cars. Push a button, they charge up in 5 minutes, maybe. But I don't bet on maybes. I bet on that's the way that it is. So be like me. Maybe get an electric car years from now. It looks like the Trump tariffs, at least the threats of them, are pushing Canada's largest oil producer to break its dependence on the United States. And we're talking about Alberta. Well, that oil, Alberta oil sands and that stuff, right? Now, 97% of Canada's oil came from Alberta, and they came to the United States. So 97% of their market is us. You start tariffing that thing, they're going to start trying to sell it to other people. People all want it. Chinese want oil. Lots of people want to buy it, right? It's just convenient. That's right here. They can send them in pipelines. It's close. We buy their oil. They buy our stuff, right? And so this tariffing thing, when people are finding the ramifications of what actually goes on. We get a lot of their oil, right? Most people, Americans, we don't want a tariff. We don't have to pay more for gasoline, right? I mean, people don't understand how interrelated this stuff is. They got this idea that, oh yeah, Canadians, they got hockey players and maple syrup. No, they got a lot of oil. We buy 97% of it. So I imagine this is just another empty threat, though, because all these tariff things, they say they're going to do something, then they get rid of it, and then it shakes everybody up. But now it's shaking up the stock market, and that's not particularly a good thing. There's one I can't help but laugh at. The new Volvo EX30 is their new little SUV, compact SUV crossover. What do you want to call it? That's electric, that they're bringing to the United States, right? Well, this nice guy by the name of Benjamin Hunting, he got one and he told the truth. A lot of times these guys that review cars, I mean, they take them on trips, they take them, send them to Iceland to go on a glacier, give them champagne and caviar, so they kiss the company's honey. This guy didn't. He called the Volvo EX30, quote, the buggiest new car I've ever driven. So a guy who reviews cars to say that says something, right? Now, the problem with Volvo is they hardly sell any electric cars in the United States. The Volvo fan base are not an electric fan base. And Volvo tries to hide this. Look at their figures. Last year, Volvo said they had an increase of electrified models to account for 28% of their sales in the U.S. and Canada. Okay? They're mixing their fully electric cars with all the others. This new one is a fully electric car. If you want to break down into real figures, it means something. They sold 13,000 fully electric cars in the United States last year, Volvo. That's it, baby. That is it. They're not what Americans want out of a Volvo. All of a sudden, oh, well, we'll give you a fully electric car. No, that's not what the Volvo people want. I know Volvo people. I've been working in their cars for decades. Soccer team type thing for going all over the place, take it on vacation, feel safe inside, go as far as you want. They can go a long way, right on a tank of gas. And their hybrids are decent. They can go even further. But fully electric, no. And so Volvo pushing this thing out too fast, and this guy says it in his article. He says, hey, it's got so many bugs, they shouldn't have sold it now in the United States. They should have perfected it before they brought it to the United States. Volvo, don't test out your crappy electric cars here in the United States, because we don't go for that crap. If they don't work right, please, don't sell them to us. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.